This is Jan. She woke up pretty early to do some chores like cleaning the house and preparing breakfast for her husband, Brian. She worked as a cashier in the store in the morning and later take an evening shift at the bar. Before her shift at the bar, she usually came to her parents' house to take care of them and later returned home to take care of her husband. Her husband, Brian, is a well-known animal breeder and farmer in the village. He had bred many contests like Best Pigeon Bred, Best Goose Bred, and many other awards. Her day has been cycling in that boring life and she was fed up with it. The dream she and her husband had become a past since they got married. One night at work, Jan overheard a conversation between a man named Howard and his friends about a racehorse competition. Her boss, the bar owner, then told her that back then, Howard owned a racehorse that he raised himself. But since he never won anything big with the horse, he got caught in a lot of debt and had to use his children's school savings to repay his almost confiscated house from the bank. That night, in bed, Jan couldn't sleep because of what she overheard before. She remembered that back then, her father also owned a racehorse and had won some local races with it. She and her father dreamed to win the big race. She wanted to make her father proud. She was sure that her dream to win a big race would come true because Jan and her husband had managed to breed many superior breeds. She was in a dilemma too. It had been years since she gave up on that dream. One day in the supermarket, she saw a magazine about the guide to breeding a superior racehorse. She finally made up her mind. After looking for her savings, she asked her husband for permission to buy a mare with it. She then would breed it with a stallion. She said that the mare would become a splendid racehorse. She even said that she had found the mare that she wanted to adopt. She had made up her mind. She even had researched before conveying her idea. Brian couldn't say anything but sigh at it. The next day, forced by Jan, Brian accompanied her to see the mare she wanted to adopt. The breeder said that the mare was a purebred racehorse and she wouldn't regret adopting it. The mare would most likely give birth to a brilliant racehorse. Jan agreed to adopt it for £300. She then named the mare Ruble. When the truck carrying Ruble came, all the villagers were excited like it was their first time seeing a horse. The village where Jan lived was small and remote. Most of the residents were old people. When Jan took Ruble out of the truck, she didn't budge. Brian then helped her with it. With decades of experience with animals, Brian gently took her out of the truck. They finally managed to take her out of the truck. At the night, while working in the bar, Jan once again met Howard. She told him her plan about breeding the racehorse and invited Howard to cooperate. She knew that with Howard's experience with racehorses, he would surely be a big help to her. Unfortunately, Howard underestimated her. He pessimistically explained that the cost of raising a racehorse was out of her budget. It could be just a temporary enthusiast until she ran out of money. She didn't accept him belittling her. She decided to make an alliance to support her dream. On the other hand, although he seemed desperate, deep inside his heart, Howard really wanted to help. The dream inside him came back. He wanted to raise a racehorse and won big races. At work, he kept thinking about Jan's offer. He then decided to visit Jan after work. He then said that he would help her and join the alliance. In the evening, Jan, Brian, and Howard waited in the meeting room at the bar. Before that, they had distributed some brochures in the town to the resident. They hoped that some people with the expertise would come and join them. Unfortunately, after a few hours of waiting in the meeting room, nobody showed up until the very last moment. When they were about to leave the room, one by one people came. 9 people presented, and with the 3 of them, they allied with 12 members. Jan was really happy with the residents who initially refused her finally showed up. Jan then explained that each of the members of the alliance was the owner of the horse. They had to take care of the horse together, and when they won races, the prize would be divided among all of them equally. And for the costs to raise the horse, they agreed to regularly pay £10 a week. A few days later, Jan and Brian brought Ruble to meet a stallion from a racehorse owner for breeding. While waiting for the process, Jan and Brian chatted about a lot of things. At that very moment, Jan finally showed her smile again after a very long time. After an exhausting and boring life they had been through this whole time, Jan finally showed excitement. She was optimistic about her dream. Months passed. While working at the supermarket, Brian called Jan and told her that Ruble was about to give birth. She was very happy. She rushed to see Ruble and left even though it was still her working hours. Arrived at the barn, Ruble had given birth to a healthy foal. But sadly, when Jan asked about Ruble's condition, Brian told her that he couldn't save Ruble. She passed away right after giving birth to the foal. Hearing that made Jan sad. The alliance members checked the foal after the foal was a few weeks old. Seeing the healthy foal, the members were happy. That night, they gathered in the bar to celebrate the born of their new racehorse. When they were about to toast for the foal, they suddenly remembered that they hadn't decided the name for it. Spontaneously, Jan said Dream Alliance. She said that because all the members of the alliance had the same dream, which was to win races, the name would match their dream perfectly. Some other members also conveyed their ideas for the name, but after the voting, they all decided that the horse would be named Dream Alliance. From that moment, they set their goal to take care of Dream and hopefully raised a brilliant racehorse. Years had passed and Dream had grown into a gallant stallion. One day, Brian took Dream to the best racehorse training ground in the country. There, they met the owner named Philip. Seeing Brian and Jan coming with their old car, not like the other horse owner that looked rich and convincing, Philip underestimated them. He disdainfully looked at them. Jan said that he would definitely regret his decision to reject their prospective champion horse. Seeing that determination, Philip then asked Jan to bring Dream for a brief test. When seeing how rebellious Dream was and how his horse jockey couldn't manage to control it, Philip left them. He felt like he was just wasting his time. Suddenly, Dream started to run. He showed a good performance and Philip was amazed by it. Philip then decided to accept Dream at his training ground. When it was time for farewell, Jan looked at Dream with teary eyes like a mother letting her child go. After months of training, the long-awaited day arrived. That afternoon, suddenly Howard called and said that now Dream was declared ready to compete and his name has been registered in the horse racing competition. The members of the Alliance were excited to see Dream race for the first time. Arriving at the race venue, Howard panicked, his ticket was left at home. Luckily, after contacting Philip, he was allowed to enter. When all the members gathered in the special room for the horse owners, the people there were confused. They wondered how come a single horse had 12 owners. Other horse owners looked luxurious, much different from the Alliance members who looked as they are. Not long after, the horse racing competition started. Dream got the number 3, but because that was the first time Dream participated in the race, he was not used to hearing the roar of the audience. Jan seemed to be directly connected to Dream's heart. When Dream finally started to adjust to the situation, he started running. The race was intense. Dream started late but managed to catch up to the other horses. He ran as fast as the wind, shocking everyone who saw him. One by one, he passed the other horses. Everyone cheered for their respective horse. Unexpectedly, a horse that was taking part in a race for the first time can win the 4th position. Jan as well as all the Alliance members were very proud of Dream. When Howard returned to his house, he was confused to see his wife looking mad at him. It turned out that afternoon, his wife accidentally found a ticket for the horse race. She was disappointed with him. She wondered why her husband still hadn't given up on horse racing. She reminded Howards that they almost lost everything just to raise the horse they used to have before. They even had to rely on extra money from his wife's salary because Howard's salary was always used to pay Howard's bank debt. Howard repeatedly apologized. He tried to convince his wife that this time, he wasn't using as much money as before. The Alliance members worked together to raise the horse, but his wife was still furious. She even threatened to divorce him if he kept involving himself in horse racing and the Alliance. Months passed. Dream had won many races. Sometimes, he got 4th, 3rd, or even 2nd place. Despite never winning a 1st place or a gold award, Dream had shocked the world with his achievement as a newcomer in the race. Like a mother who is proud of her child, Jan displayed all the awards and newspaper news about Dream. The Alliance members believed that sooner or later, Dream would win 1st place. The next day, at Jan's parents' house, she showed her father a newspaper about the horse racing Dream competed in before and told him about Dream's latest developments. She hoped that her father could be proud of her because their dreams between the father and his daughter from her childhood were starting to come true. Unfortunately, her father's expression was cold. He might have forgotten about their dreams. The next day, Jan went to visit Dream in the training ground. Philip suddenly came and told her that he had just registered Dream to take part in the big race in Newbury. A week later, race day arrived. Much different from the previous race, this time, there were several points of obstacles that the horse had to jump. Again, the interconnection between Dream and Jan looked strong. Even though she was worried, she was sure that Dream would definitely get past the obstacles. The gunshot was heard as the signal for the horse to start galloping. Just like any other race before, Dream's performance was superb. He passed all horses while trying to jump past the obstacles. The battle between Dream and the fastest horse was intense. Everyone cheered for him and he finally managed to run past the leading position. Dream finished 1st for the first time. Everyone cheered to celebrate Dream's winning. All Alliance members are happy, especially Jan. It was her first time holding the Gold Cup. Not only that, but her Alliance also won prize money of £26,000. While checking the Dream's condition, suddenly the owner of the horse who finished 2nd approached them. He made an offer to buy Dream at a very high price of £500 million. Without much ado, Jan immediately refused the extraordinary offer. When the man left, other alliance members were angry. They protest Jan's refusal of the offer before. They blamed her for deciding without discussing it with the other members. A debate ensues. Some wanted to sell Dream while the price was still high, and some refused. In the middle of the debate, Howard tried to calm them down so they wouldn't have to be too hasty in deciding to sell Dream. He said that it was better for them to believe in Jan because she was the leader of this alliance. Regardless of the debate, all members of the alliance along with the villagers held a party that night. At work, Howard kept repeating the recorded race from before. The boss suddenly came to rebuke him because, in the past few months, Howard's performance had been declining drastically. But instead of regretting or apologizing, Howard was sick of it. For years, he had always kept his dreams inside and do his job just to fulfill other people's demands. He then decided to resign that very second. At home, after hearing Howard's story, his wife was upset, saying that this must be because of horse racing again. In the past, all Howard had in mind was only horses and racing. Even until now, he was never changed. On the other side, when Jan just came home, she was confused by her husband's upset face. She saw her husband watching TV with a sad face. Brian then confided that he missed Dream. Every time Dream stayed at the training ground, Brian felt lonely. Jan tried to calm her husband. She said that even though it was hard to be separated from Dream, whom they both consider like their own children, they were still happy after Dream came into their life. Back then, when they got married, Brian stopped working and chose to focus on raising livestock. Since then, Brian lost his ambition in life. It had always been like that for decades until when Dream came, her husband seemed to start to get motivated again. Even with all his wife's words, it still couldn't cure his longing for Dream. A few days later, Jan met Howard in his new small office. There Howard told her that he had opened his own tax consulting office. By opening his own office, despite his lower income, he would have more time to focus on achieving the Alliance's dreams and seeing the horses that he and the other Alliance members have raised together become champions in big competitions. As proof of his sincerity, Howard had even registered Dream for a national horse racing competition. Jan was shocked to hear the news. She didn't expect Dream to finally be able to participate in the prestigious race. The next day, while taking care of his parents, Jan conveyed the good news about Dream, who would be competing at the national level. She hoped that his father would be proud of her. But again, her father just kept quiet without giving any comments. Seeing the reaction, Jan was upset. In disappointment, she left her father. The day of the most prestigious horse racing race arrived. Much different from the previous race, Jan and the other Alliance members were nervous to be in the midst of a much busier crowd of spectators. Even Dream was also nervous. Just like the first time he raced, but regardless of all these worries, Jan believed that Dream would surely be able to handle the situation and all the obstacles that stand in his way. She believed that Dream would be able to win the title. The race started. Dream sped up like the wind. He passed other horses. His performance was good, like before. But something strange happened. Dream kept bumping his legs into the obstacles. The obstacles from the previous one were a little bit easier compared to the national level. Suddenly, in a corner behind a hill, when the other horses were seen passing it, Dream was nowhere to be seen on the track. He disappeared. When ambulances and medics were seen on the track, Jan knew something terrible had happened. Amid the panic, Howard tried to contact Philip. Philip, through the telephone, explained that when Dream tried to pass the last obstacle, one of his legs bumped into the obstacle and made him fall to the ground. The accident was serious. Dream broke his ankle and was badly injured. To stop the pain, Dream had to be shot dead on the spot. Hearing the decision, Philip then ordered the Alliance members to immediately answer, whether agreeing with the condition or not. He explained that if Dream was shot dead, they would be able to receive Dream's insurance money, which is worth £120,000. But if they insisted on surgery to save him, the chances of Dream's ankle recovering back to normal are very slim. Dream would never be able to race again and ended his career as a racehorse. After the operation is carried out later, their insurance money will automatically be forfeited, or even more, they had to pay a large additional fee for the treatment. An argument was issued because of differences of opinion between Alliance members. They couldn't tolerate losing more money. The last time, they refused to sell Dream for a hefty amount of money. Now, they couldn't help losing Dream's insurance money. In the middle of a debate, Brian, who usually just kept quiet, suddenly shouted at the top of his voice. Brian told them to listen to Jan's words first. Jan wondered what happened to the Alliance. Despite Dream's injured condition at that time, the Alliance only thought about money and profits all the time. She reminded them that before Dream came into their life, they were nothing but unemployed who lost hope in life. But because of Dream, all the villagers were able to reunite and had a new hope to carry on. They couldn't say anything to defend themselves. Jan then told Howard to carry out the surgery to save Dream. All night, Jan, Brian, Howard, and the other Alliance members can only wait for news from Dream's surgery until when the morning came, Philip finally called and said that the surgery was successful. Jan and Brian then hurried to see Dream's condition. Philip explained that even though the operation was successful, they still had to wait until Dream was fully recovered. The chances of Dream being able to compete again are very slim. Jan didn't care. The most important thing for her was for Dream to recover from his condition. A few days later, after work, Brian suddenly called Jan. On the phone, he told her that her father had died. The next day, after Jan's father's funeral, she tried to strengthen his mother. They both then returned home. That night at home, while tidying up her father's things, Jan found an envelope containing newspaper pieces of Dream's journey from the beginning of his career. Jan's tears fell. She regretted what she had said to her father, for yelling at him and saying that he didn't care about her and their dreams. Her father turned out to be secretly proud of his daughter the entire time. He was proud of Jan and Dream. Weeks have passed. One night, Howard got an email from Philip. In that email, Philip told him to come to the training ground with Jan to check for Dream's latest condition. The next morning, upon arrival, they were surprised to see the miracle in front of their eyes. Despite the slim chances that Dream would be able to race again, they saw the horse jockey ride Dream and run like he used to. They didn't expect Dream to be able to run again. Philip then informed them that based on the doctor's examination, Dream's ankle was even stronger than before the surgery. Philip planned to register Dream to compete again at the national level on condition that all Alliance members agreed with the idea. That night, the Alliance held a meeting. At the meeting, all members agreed. They wanted Dream to join the race again, except for Jan. She said that the obstacles in the national track area were incomparable to the ones in the local race. She was afraid if somehow Dream got into another accident, he would not make it. There wouldn't be a second surgery. That would be the end for him. When asking for support from her husband, Brian, who usually supported her, somehow opposed her. He said that he wanted to see Dream race again. Jan couldn't say anything but went outside. Brian tried to calm his wife's heart. He said that he was also afraid of Dream getting hurt again, but the soul of the racehorse flows in Dream's blood. Dream was born to be a champion. Brian tried to strengthen Jan by holding her shoulder and then convinced Jan to let Dream do the race. Jan agreed. The day of the race arrived. When Howard was about to leave, he was surprised to see his wife and 2 children waiting for him. After knowing how her husband struggled to make all this happen despite her opposing him all the time, she now decided to support her husband. She wanted to watch her husband's horse compete in the race. The excitement of the racing event was not only in the field but also all over the country. The villagers gathered to support Dream. Dream, once again with his number 3, had become a symbol of the pride of their village. Before the race started, the national anthem of Wales would be sung. When the national anthem was over, the racers prepared for the race. As usual, after adjusting to the condition, Dream finally calmed down. The national level horse racing race had started. Dream jumped past all the obstacles perfectly. He even got tied for first place. With all his might, Dream ran as fast as he can and successfully passed the leading position and finished the first position. When everyone celebrated their win, Howard was not there. He was looking at the track alone. Suddenly, his wife came to accompany him. His wife told him that this moment was the moment he had been waiting for a long time and said that he had to cherish it while he can. His childhood dream had come true. The family that used to be against him finally felt very proud of him. After they arrived at the village, Brian and the other Alliance group were warmly welcomed by the residents. The story of Dream was a true story. The evidence that dreams can come true. Dream had become the symbol of pride in the country.